What's going on, everybody? This is another edition of You Can't Make This BS Up. It's your host, Joel Davis. Uh, Sorry for the little hiatus. I told y'all that my wife had surgery. I want to let everyone know that she is A-okay. Yes, she's A-okay. Um, God is good. My wife is healthy. So far, well, not healthy enough to say she's moving around to 100%, but the surgery itself went healthy, and we're thankful. I mean, you just have to be thankful when it comes to these type of things. And when you get up in age, like we are middle-aged people now. You have to take care of yourself, and you have to be able to make sure that you put yourself in situations where you can get the proper treatment whenever you need to get the proper treatment. I want to give a shout out to everyone that has been following the podcast. I always give y'all my stats uh, every day about what is going on and where we at with everything. I want to say that so far, these 10 episodes that I have done, I mean, not 10 episodes, but the actual 6 episodes I've done, we are have a lot of good response so far. We got 89% of our audience from the United States, 4% for Australia. Want to say thank you for your Australia listeners. We also got 4% from Canada. Thank you, Canada. UK, we got 4% from the UK. We also want to give a shout out to our audience as well. And when it comes to the ages, shout out to my 60 plus listeners that's listening to the podcast that are 60 plus. We got 37.5% on that. That's pretty good. Next highest is my age group, my middle age folks. Thank you very much, 25%. Along with 35, as well at 25%. And my young folks, that's right, my 28 to 34 that liking my podcast. Thank you for being at my 12.5% of my listening broadcast. So yeah, we're moving right along, guys. We're moving right along. We got some female listeners too. Thank y'all. At one time we were just straight male listeners, but I'm glad we got some female listeners as well. So we're doing good. I cannot complain. Hopefully we can get it to grow, get our audience size up. My goal is hopefully within a year from now, we will have 1,000 listeners at minimum. I mean, that's a reasonable goal. I mean, I don't know how the podcast game is going. I'm still new to this. I'm actually still trying to build our brand, but hey, I want to thank you guys. I really do. I just need you guys to please put comments in the comment section, please, and let me know what you think about it as well. I am going to soon start building my Patreon up so that way you guys can actually join that for other episodes that we do not publish here. That is the behind the scenes, the videos that do not make it to our YouTube channel, Joe's Crime Stories, which is the official YouTube channel for You Can't Make This BS Up. Uh, just support, man. That's all I ask you guys to do. Y'all continue to support. We'll definitely continue to pump the material out. So we're going to the second part of Stanley Ford. Oh my God, this case is a nightmare. Me researching this case, first and foremost, it makes you want to rethink ever having a neighbor by you again, okay? When you get through with this case and look it up yourselves from the notes I took from it, it's going to make you never, ever want to have anyone near you again. This is crazy. All right, so And if you hear my wife cough in the background, it's because, like I said, she's still recovering. So, Stanley Ford is a guy that lives in Baltimore, Maryland. I want to say, I hope I said that right. Baltimore, Maryland area. Because I want to make sure I got my notes right. Yes, I'm right. Yeah, this guy. Oh no, my mythologies. I don't know why I said Baltimore. It's in Akron, Ohio. He lives in the Akron, Ohio area. Okay, he is a religious man. Goes to church. Uh, all about following all the laws of the Bible. Put everybody in a high regard. Now, he lived in this neighborhood in Akron, Ohio since he was actually born in the neighborhood. Let's put it that way. Since birth. Okay. He like basically came to the hospital, went into his mama house, and this is where he was raised. He never left. In fact, he loved the neighborhood so much, he brought a home beside his mom's home, which is his actual home, and he was actually trying to get more property in this exact neighborhood. Now, you would hear this type of thing and think this guy is probably the greatest guy since wheat bread. But unfortunately, he's not. He's not the greatest guy since wheat bread. Since wheat bread. He's actually a menace when it comes to people not listening to his ideology of being a good citizen. Now, we all know that it's okay to be protective of a neighbor. I'm protective of my neighborhood. Everybody's protective of their neighborhood where they stay at, especially if it's a nice, peaceful neighborhood. But there is a within reason to be protective, and then there's a psychotic, unreasonable ways to be protected. We've seen that Stanley Ford has been unreasonable in the last podcast. Last podcast, allegedly, he was responsible, possibly of, well, not possibly, was responsible for setting his neighbor's house on fire that he was friends with for years and killed the common in-law couple that were together for so many years and almost killed one of the guys that they were trying to help rehabilitate in the home. We also found out that he has firebombed a car before that was a part of that couple's property. We also have noticed about Stanley is that Stanley is very sneaky. Okay, he likes to play dumb when he finds out that tragedies happens in the neighborhood, and even likes to make little snide remarks like, "Well, they should have been following the Bible. This wouldn't happen," kind of thing. But now it's been a year since Stanley has done his dirt. No one still has not caught on that Stanley is the bad guy. Stanley now has new neighbors that has moved in. The new neighbors that has moved in is Angela Pryor B. Boggs and also Dennis Huggett. Now they are boyfriend and girlfriend. We talked about Angela was once married to her ex-husband who was just a psycho when it comes to being a husband, abusive mentally, emotionally, and even tried to kill her at one point. We'll get to more in that detail whenever we start getting more in depth of this story. Well, Patrick Boggs is now in prison at this point, and Angela has found the love of her life, a guy that treats her very well, very good, and that is Mr. Dennis Huggins. So I want to show a picture here of this lovely couple right quick. Let me go see if I can bring this up. Y'all can see it. Try to put a picture up. All right, I'm gonna try to see if I get them up. That's like the best picture I could find because all the rest of them are a little. Now, what's ironic is this lady, if she would have been live today, she would have been like the same age my wife is. It's crazy to know someone that young lost their life because of ignorance. But again, my condolences to her daughter and her immediate family, her oldest daughter, immediate family, because this right here is something that really affects me as a person because I feel like nobody should lose their life over nonsense. Never, never. Don't agree with it. Don't support it. So anyway, this is Mrs. Angela, and this is her boyfriend, which she bragged about all the time, and was even going to actually marry one day, Mr. Dennis Huggins. So this is both of these lovely folks right here. So what we got going on? All right, I just want to make sure I covered my bases up. So now we're to the part where they have just moved in. Now, like I said before, Mr. Stanley has got acquainted with Dennis and Angela. At first, he liked it, Dennis, because he found out that Dennis came from the same type of background he came from, went to church, you know, uh, was all about family, very well spoken. So it seemed like at first that Stanley felt like he did found the perfect neighbors to buy this particular house that he had his eye on. But as time went on, the first sign that there was trouble is when Stanley started seeing that Mr. Huggins had barbecues every Sunday. Now, this was a ritual for Bernard Huggins and his family. That every time they came from church, they would go to his house because he had the nicer yard, the uh, manicured lawn and stuff in that area. Like the family felt more comfortable going over to his house and having the barbecue. Now, when he would have his barbecues, y'all know how it is with barbecues, especially when it comes to a black family. All right. And I'm just being 100 about it. When we have our barbecues, our kids are playing. We're going to be playing, music. Sometimes, a lot of time, it's a little bit of throwback old school music, as we call barbecue music. Or a lot of times, it will be, if it's on a Sunday, causing how religious the family is, we may have some gospel music on. But either way, it's going to be some good music. Good food, kids playing around, being loud, having fun. We're laughing and talking. We're usually, if you're in a really heavily Christian barbecue, you're not gonna see no alcoholic beverage. I'm gonna tell you that now in black. They ain't gonna do that. Nah. Especially the old heads, they're gonna tell you right quick, like, nah, not gonna have that at this party, baby. I mean, that's just like I said before, the real spiritual type of black family. Now, my black family ain't like that. It's gonna be the beer, the liquor, the whole 9 yards popping out. We gonna be jamming. All right, that's just what it is. But in this case, based upon what his family stated, they never had alcohol. They was just excited with fellowship with each other. But when Stanley would come outside and see them, and he see any kind of can or any kind, it could be a 20-ounce bottle, regular plastic bottle, he would assume in his head that they were drinking. He was assuming in their head that they were being belligerent around the kid. Then he would also assume in his head that the kids were being so loud that he could not think. And he would scream at these people and tell them, you need to quiet down. And even go to the point of getting very upfront in Dennis's face, like, I'm tired of you having all your family members up here every Sunday. It is not the proper way for this neighborhood. I'm not able to do what I need. This is too much. Now, he even went as far as saying when these people were smoking cigarettes outside, his family had smokers, that they were smoking weed. Dennis Huggins was like, yo, dude, we don't, what? There's no weed smoking here. What are you talking about? My family is fellowshipping with me. We're barbecuing and having a good time like normal neighbors do on a Sunday. Now, other neighbors testify that Dennis barbecues didn't bother them. They thought it was the American way, Come to home from, you get from church, your brother saying, hey, barbecue at my place? Yeah, let me put the meats on, or let me put this on, or I already got this marinade, So this was one of the things that irked this man about the family. Now, another thing that really got on his nerves about the couple is the oldest son. Now, the oldest son was a teenager, okay? And that was Cameron. I think it was Cameron, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think it was. Now, the oldest boy, excuse me, let me rephrase that. The oldest boy was Jared. I'm sorry. Cameron was a baby. Jared. Now, Jared was 14. Jared was one of those kids that like to, have fun and do like any other normal teenage kid do. Hang out with his friends. Now, there was a couple of occasions that Mr. Stanley Ford caught Jared looking into some cars. It was when they were having a lot of break. So it was one night, you got Stanley Ford walking the neighborhood. He does this all the time. He will walk the neighborhood, they said, sometimes 2 and 3 times out of the night, just being like a guard dog, just walking the neighborhood, watching. And then he saw the little kid, saw Jared and his friends looking in the vehicle. He accused them of trying to break in. If in fact they had a confrontation, and like any young kid, Jared basically told the old man, like, "Yo, man, you tripping? Like, I'm not trying to steal anything. I'm just being nosy to look in the car." Now, some people would speculate that, okay, late at night, you walking around 8, 9 o'clock at night when it's dark, looking in the cars as a teenager, does sound suspicious. But give or take, you can take that with a grain of salt for anything. I mean, when I was that age, when I was that age, I looked in the cars. I mean, I ain't gonna lie. Now, breaking in, that's a different story. Because usually, if you're gonna break into a vehicle, usually most teenagers gonna do it way late at night where they know there's nobody around and do what they gotta do. Because it's kind of risky doing that 8, 9, 10, or 11, even midnight at night, because people are still up. Most times teenagers gonna do that kind of stuff, like they say, the witching hour, 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. Because people is asleep, nobody up, and you can do what you want to do and you get away with it. or try to get away with it. So I don't think that these kids were trying to do that. But anyway, they went. They told their parents what was going on. Hey, listen, it's the creepy old man again. He's threatening us, talking about he's gonna call the cops and stuff, thinking that we trying to break in. We're not even doing that kind of stuff. So again, Dennis Huggins, like any protective fatherly role, it seemed like he was the son's the young man's stepfather. Was like, hey, if I see him or if I catch him, we gonna have a problem. Because he has no business talking to my kid, and he has every right to say that. I mean, that's his kid. Hold on, I did not know I had that.
Bluetooth disconnected.
Anyway, so after this has started, as begun, there was another incident. This time, he swear out that he saw these young people again, Jared Boggs, hanging out with one of his buddies, decided to pass him a let me see. Yeah, he wanted to pass him a little bit of weed, a little bag of weed. And so they kind of like did an exchange like people do, handshake or whatever. Well, Stanley saw it. You know what Stanley did? Are you dealing drugs in my neighborhood? That's the first thing to come out of his mouth. Dude was like, no, I mean, this is just a little bit of weed that, I give to my buddies, my friends. Like, what are you talking about? What? Weed to your friends? Like, we ain't no dope dealer like major like that. Just, a little smoke here and there for our friends, to get a little, get them over through whenever they can go to the real people that carry that sell the real drugs. But Stanley wasn't having it. We're not gonna have this. This is you need to put a stop to this. Oh, wait a minute, guy. Like I said, it's just, what are you talking about? So they started to see that this guy was a problem. And they was like, all right. And not only was he having beef with them, there was even occasions that when they had the barbecues, get back to the barbecues again, that this same gentleman would go at Dennis's brother in confrontation. Now, I want y'all to listen to what I'm saying. This guy would go after Dennis's brother, ready to get it in and act the fool. Now, that is like totally insane to know that your neighbor were quick to go at your brother. Now, his brother that he usually would go at was Duran Huggins. And it was always, like I said, over allegations of, he swear out they were selling drugs, they were drinking heavily, or they were actually having ladies of the night at one point at the barbecue. It was some crazy allegations. And they would always say, listen, this dude is weird and creepy. So before everything and all hell broke loose, the week before, Dennis and Angela decided to go down to visit family in Florida. Okay, now Dennis and Angela went to Florida. Let's see here. They went down to Tampa, Florida. Now, when they went down back to Tampa, Florida, they were like, all right, it's a pretty nice area. We can deal with this. And when they went down to Tampa, seeing how everything was, they decided to, okay, this could be something that we can actually do here. All right, we can actually do this, and they went and announced to the extra family, said, "Listen, guys, how would you feel about us going out and moving to Tampa, Florida?" And the kids are like, "Yeah, I am with it. Let's go. Florida, the beaches. Why not?" So the family is excited. Angela is now excited. New chapter. Dennis is excited. So Dennis and Angela decided, well, I know we just got this place and been here about a year. Let's go ahead on and put it up. So they go and they put it up for sale. You would think that Stanley Ford would be excited seeing that for sale sign coming up. Okay, they're leaving. Yay! Nope, not Stanley. Stanley is still stewing over the fact of the matter that these folks are still in his neighborhood and feel like that they need to repent for the sins they have committed. So, what did he do? Well, we're about to get to that part. So, they done moved back and everything else. Again, Angela was working at a dialysis machine facility. All right. And Angela was a hard worker. Okay. Now, again, like I said, Dennis was born in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Giving a little background of Dennis. His father was, that's why I say he was a family man, because his father was stationed in Point Bragg. And everything else. So, like I said, Dennis and Angela um are like a dynamic team. They really are trying to achieve their American dream. And she even talked about even working and maybe even setting up. I think they were thinking about setting up a medical business over in Tampa when they got situated. But in the meantime, uh, Dennis was a stay-at-home dad because Angela made all the money for the family, and he would help raise the kid, and she was cool with that because that just made everything uh worthwhile. Now, one thing about Dennis, though, he knew how to fix things up too. Now, he was a skilled carpenter, so he wasn't not only just a college graduate. This guy was also a skilled carpenter, and I just want to add those extra tidbits before we moved on to what happened. So, anyway, right before they decided to move out on May 17th, 2007, Angela and Dennis are in the bed, winding down for the night, excited about the move that they're planning to do as soon as they find a buyer for the house and start their next journey. Well, all of a sudden, Stanley and Angela started smelling smoke. So while they were smelling the smoke, it seemed like that Angela and Dennis tried their best to get the children out of the house. Now, while they are trying to get the children out of the house, allegedly, Mr. Stanley here had put had set the fire where they could not get out any exit. Okay, no exit at all. So all of a sudden, everybody gets up to the second. Okay, everybody's huddled to the second floor, into the windows. You got Dennis, you got Angela, you got all the kids screaming out, "Help! We need help, y'all. We cannot go out nowhere." So, like anybody would do, the neighbors hearing this commotion calls 911, emergency service. So 911 and the fire department are on their way fast as possible. Takes them about approximately, if I can recall, 14 minutes to get to. 14 minutes is a lot of time, especially if the fire started. I'm quite sure by that time, that fire is very intense on the bottom floor, and it's probably slowly moving up the second floor with that smoke coming in at a rapid rate. So they still letting people know they're alive. They still need help. They're still in on the second floor by that window. The fire department goes and try to set up for the fire hydrant hose to spray the fire down as fast as they possibly could at the base, so that way they could extinguish it and try to get these folks out, or get someone to go in to get these folks out as safely as possible. They go to the fire hydrant that is in that neighborhood. That is not even that, but a couple of houses down. Well, there's a problem. The fire hydrant is out of service. Yes, I said it right. The fire hydrant is out of service. And it is out of service because the last time they used it on the previous house fire and the car fire, that no one came back to check and see if it was operable. So now they gotta go 2 blocks down to get to a water hose. Now they are in a panic. They are doing everything they can to hurry up and get this fire hydrant 2 blocks away to connect to that and connect another extension of the hose to get and try to save the lives of these folks. But by the time they do all that, it is too late. The family is perished. That's right. 7 people lost their lives in that fire. And the 7 people that lost their lives in that fire is Jared Boggs, 14, Diasia Huggins, 6, Cal Huggins, 5, Alivia Huggins, 3, Cameron Huggins, 16 months old, Dennis Huggins, 35, and Angela Boggs, 30. The only surviving victims were the 2 children, Angela's oldest daughter, who was named, they just said it. I just remember talking about her oldest daughter. Yes. Brittany Boggs, her oldest daughter, and his son, who's an adult, because he had this boy at 14 years of age, was also Dennis' surviving child. That child at that time was like 25 years old. So, yeah, so he had, because I did not know this, but Dennis had a child at 14 years of age. He stayed in the child's life. It's just that they never seen him that much. Which was named Tynus, or Ty. They call him Ty for short. Hug. So at that time, Ty would have been about 21, which probably now he's probably about 28 now. During this episode, because I researched it and he ain't said nothing about him passing away. So yeah, that's sad. 2 families destroyed by, again, a sinister neighbor. So everybody is heartbroken about this situation. A whole family has passed away. Um, People are just trying to figure out what is going on in this neighborhood. There was a car caught on fire, then another family car done caught on fire. And I meant to include that too. Their car got firebombed too. And now you got a whole fire, a whole house that went sit on fire, and now no one survived. And you believe me, the fire marshals came out and saw how it was impossible for no one to save them anyway, and how the fire spread so quick. Someone had put accelerant on all the exit points of the house and around the house. So literally, they firebombed them inside, like fire trap. You can't go nowhere. They had no other choice but to jump out that second story. Now, a lot of people say, well, why didn't they just jump out the second story and get the kids or have somebody down there to say, well, here's the thing about that. I mean, this was an old house. The structure was very very shaky. I mean, they had no other way. They had no other way to get out of this. So this right here was again a nightmare within itself. And yeah, it was definitely a tragedy. Now I am about to show y'all a pic of the kids of the Huggins family that perished. And this right here it's so sad that these are the family members that passed away because of someone's ignorance. And I have to say it that way. That's what it is. It's ignorant. Because how any other way could you put it? I mean, you killed a family because you did not like how their parents did things. Now these are the children. This is Jared, the oldest child. Then there is Diasia, who was also 6. The little guy Cal, little Alicia, and then Cameron. So all of these children are no longer with us because of ignorance. And again, rest in peace to young Jared, because if young Jared would have been alive today, he would have been 21 years of age. And he lost his life because somebody just could not comprehend the fact that people are actually normal, that not everybody is robotic. Okay? So, with this happen, they started saying, well, we're going to start looking at everything again from the point of the last fire in the neighborhood. Again, at the last fire in the neighborhood, it was kind of the same pattern. And they started asking questions to Brittany, the surviving daughter, about who she possibly think had a vendetta against her mother and soon to be stepfather. And the first thing came out of her mouth was Stanley Ford. Now, while the visual is going on, Stanley Ford had the nerve to go up to Brittany and said, "I'm sorry for your loss." In fact, let me put a little bit more emphasis how he said. He said, "Brittany, sorry for your loss. And I hope that whoever did this, that they nail this person and they rot in jail." I don't know if he was really being sincere about that or he was just saying that to kind of like throw her off his scent. I think he was saying it to throw her off his scent. But sometimes you can speak things in existence and not even know it. So when that happened, Brittany said she felt a very cold chill come over her body. Even had to hug her after that. So while Stanley's on the list of suspects, they, again, they checked out, well, could it be people that were trying to break in the neighborhood? They checked that angle. Well, once again, that was clear. Then they checked other angles of the people that they were saying were doing drugs and stuff that was over there at the previous house that got got shot on fire. They cleared that up. So they were like, all right. Finally, they even checked out, like I said before, on the last arsonist. The last arson was the ex-wife of the first couple that we talked about that got killed. And that first couple, which was Mr. Lindell and his wife, Gloria Jean, his live-in common law wife, Gloria Jean Hart. So they looked at, because Lindell Lewis still was married to his first wife. And she did have insurance on him that no one knew about. Now, I don't think this was a lot of insurance. I think it was under $100,000 because it really wasn't a lot of money per se. But the cops had to look into it because, he didn't know anything about it. And she had insurance on him. And they basically got the bump. So like she said, look, I love my husband. We had a kid together. You know what I mean? But, whenever we broke up, he went his way, I went mine. Like, we were even seeing other people. Like, it wasn't even that kind of part. Like, I was not jealous of what he had going on. I didn't want him dead. I just want justice. So they cleared all of that. They went back to the video. Now, this is what's up with the video. The video, even though this man was dressed in black, had a gaping wall. A walk that they have never seen anyone walk like in the neighborhood just yet of all their suspects. Except for they never checked out Stanley. So they decided to start recording Stanley. So Stanley be walking around the neighborhood or in town, and the cops was following him. And they were recording how he was walking. And he was like, this is harassment. What are you guys doing? They ain't said nothing. We just recording you. Ain't nothing against the law about that. We just recording you. Well, Stanley didn't understand at the time that they were recording him for a reason. They were trying to see if that walk he had also imitates the walk of the person that they saw on the videos on both of the fires that night that was seen going towards the actual crime scene in a way. Well, the investigators looked at the walk, and lo and behold, it did match the same walk that Stanley Ford had. But there's still not enough evidence to charge him yet. They gotta make sure they got everything in the clear. But they also know that Stanley's mom had a security system, just like his security system at his house. It logs when he went in and when he went out. Well, they looked at the time frames of the log. Now, he stated that he was always either home or wasn't doing anything when these crimes, was always in bed when these crimes were happening. Well, they were looking at the time frame. Well, the security timestamps always winded up during these fires that before they got started, a couple of minutes before he was there at his mom's house in that area where they was starting at, and then he would come right back in to his house. The time frame, he couldn't escape it. And with all that evidence, they went to the DA office, and that's when the DA decided to go ahead on and arrest Stanley. So Stanley was placed under arrest in May 2017, especially after the witnesses came up. Serena Jones, who identified him as an arsonist. So not only did that happen, let's not include too that his wife also gave him up because he tried to get her to, like, I guess, lie for an alibi that he was home a certain time off of the last guy with the little with the that killed the family. And she was like, "Oh no, you wasn't home." No, sir, player. I didn't see you. So that right there was a nail in his coffin. Nobody was not falling for the old, Stanley is misunderstood. Now, while this is going on, everybody's in disbelief because who would think that a man would kill his neighbor? Like, this was unheard of. People did not know how to respond to this. Like, literally, this was unheard of. One second. I have some technical difficulties for a minute. Y'all bear with me. Hate when that happens. Bear with me. And I think it's the weather because I'm doing this recording uh with with the assistance of the internet. So my weather right now is a little shaky because of all these storms. All right, now I'm back in the game. Sorry about that, guys. Again, my apologies. So after being arrested, he got the witnesses that came forward. His bond was set at $7 million cash. I want y'all to keep that in mind. $7 million. That's a lot of money. It's a cash bond. That means somebody's got to have that type of cash to get him out. That means the full $7 million amount. No 10%. Nobody can't put up a house for 700 grand and be like, all right, we got some property. Now you go and get up. Nope. He's got to have an actual bond, an actual cash. So after this, it came to find out that this guy was charged with 29 separate counts of murder. All right, 29 separate counts. Excuse me, with comprised 22 counts of aggravated murder. They gave him 22 counts of aggravated murder. Then he got 2 counts of attempted murder, 2 counts of aggravated arson. Now let me tell you about the 2 counts of attempted murder because I know I told you that Lindell's Lewis' friend escaped, but the other guy also escaped too. I never could get the other guy's name that was in that fire as well, but he escaped as well too. So that's how the attempted murder, 2 attempted murder charges came out. And then he had 2 counts of aggravated arson. Now 1 count of cruelty to animals because the dog got burned up in the home of Lindell Lewis and his family. And 1 count of arson because they could prove that he did the car that was on fire with the other family, but they couldn't prove that he did the one with Lindell Lewis. Now he went on trial in 2020, which was early, But then it got postponed because at that time the whole world was dealing with COVID, especially in the U.S. 19 pandemic. But then he had his second trial, which began in August 2021. Now, during that trial, there was found out that he was suffering from dementia, and he also had brain damage from over the years. Now, I don't know how that all happened, but I did know that he did have dementia. So his defense tried to say because of depleted mental capacity, he would not be able, that they would try to get him a sentence where he would be found, maybe not guilty due to reason of medically brain damage or whatever you want to put it as because of medical condition or couldn't even stand trial. But yeah, the prosecution and the judge definitely wasn't going for that. So they proceeded with the trial. And with the trial, like I said, he got found guilty of 26 other charges, including both house fires that resulted in the death of the 9 people. Now, while the prosecution, like I said, had demanded a death sentence, the jury recommended life imprisonment, and Stanley was ultimately sentenced to 9 consecutive life sentences without the chance of parole and another 21 years for attempted murder of Thomas Hughley, who got away from the fire. That was one of the guys that were living in Lindell Lewis's and Gloria Hart Park. Now, guys, let me tell y'all why I think they gave him the life sentence. I think that they gave him the life sentence because they did put in fact that he had brain damage and dementia, but they also looked at the facts of the case and all the intent and planning that he did, that this was not a man that was medically not medically capable to control itself. Because see, people got to understand, when you say something like you medically impaired or reason of insanity, you really have to believe that you did nothing wrong. Like, you can't distinguish right from wrong. Like, your impulses are so erratic and so out of the norm that there's no other way. Like, literally, you could run into traffic and get hit and be like, I got hit in traffic. So, and try to get back up and act like everything's cool. That's what they're saying when your mental capacity is gone. His mental capacity wasn't going to that point like that. He planned this out. He even dressed in all black. He did everything except for disguise his walk. So this had to be some planning. I mean, he even fired bomb exits so people could not run out when it got set on fire. So you cannot tell me that this guy was so mentally impaired that he didn't know right from wrong. He knew what he was doing. I mean, if he didn't know what he was doing and he was just trying to set something on fire, he would have just did it quickly in a hurry to where he thought he did good enough and then walked away. Not to the point where you doing exits, nobody can't get out. That's a lot of work, bro. That's a lot of gasoline. So nah, man. And lighter fluid, excuse me, because that's what they found that he used too, lighter fluid. So anyway, per the court record, he is presently serving his sentence at the Ross Correctional Institution in Chillicothe, Ohio. I hope I didn't mispronounce that. Now, Stanley will die in prison. Stanley, I'm quite sure his wife has left him now that he married the younger lady. I don't know how his mental condition is. If he's got dementia, he's probably really going downhill from here. Do I feel sorry for Stanley? I don't. I think Stanley Ford was, how can I put this, so wrapped up in being a religious hero / hero, because sometimes people can put religion mixed with trying to be a hero to the point that he really disregarded common sense. I mean, this is what it was. He was a guy that was self-absorbed. He was self-absorbed in the idea of being a religious hero. And he felt like if people could not be on that level of worshiping or following his ideology from his hero religious ideas, then you had to go. I mean, this is what it was. I would put Stanley as a guy that could have been a cult leader. He really could have. He could have been a cult leader with this type of mindset. Now, if he would have been a lot more charismatic and a lot more passive aggressive, instead of how he was being aggressive with everyone else in person, he probably could have been. He probably could have been one of those cult leaders that would have done a lot of damage. But unfortunately, he felt like that he had to be a warrior. When you didn't do what he said, you would get eliminated. And he felt like that everything he did had to be fire and brimstone through his version of what he interpreted of the Bible, which is to me dangerous. You can never change nobody. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. People are people. If people want to do something, they're gonna do it. That's just how it is. You can encourage them, or you can give them, uh, you know, advice on the matter that you don't feel comfortable about. But if they continue that they're gonna do it or ignore it, that's just what it is. Now you're gonna have to make a choice. You can either move out of that person's way, or you can tolerate it. And in this case, uh, Stanley didn't want to tolerate it, and he sure wasn't gonna move out their way. So he decided to take matters in his own hand. And now this is where he at. He is spending the rest of his life in prison. So guys, please take this with a grain of salt. If your neighbor is driving you crazy to the point that you cannot stand that neighbor, or said a neighbor is to the point that you know that they're not going to get any better, please just move. Stanley could have just moved. All he had to do, he had enough money and resources. Wasn't like he was broke. I mean, he tried to buy another house. He could have moved him and his family out in the country. Quite sure that Akron, Ohio got some country not that far from it. They could have got some country land. I mean, God knows where. He could have been by himself. He would have had nothing to worry about. He could have lived in exact peace. But we know, and I know, that Stanley can't do that, because Stanley needs to be the type of person to have someone to feed that ego. And how do he get his ego fed? Playing the hero. And if nobody didn't want to appreciate him playing the hero, they gotta go. So either way it goes, y'all, let me know what y'all think about this story. Also, too, listen, I'm gonna put this out there to anybody in the comment section as well. If you do comment, if you got a story you want me to research and actually talk about on the channel, I will. I will try to include it in one of my seasons. But for me to do that, I need you guys to comment on my actual podcast. Okay, please. Those comments really do help. Again, please like this, comment, continue to tell others about the podcast. Let's grow. Let's try to get more countries in here and everything else. The more we get, the more I even start doing about those countries, about their famous true crime stories and things of that nature. I appreciate you guys. Take care. Have a good day. And again, if your neighbor is not to your standard and you know they're not going to change, please move.